Many people remember Dionne Warwick when she sang, "What the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the only thing that there's just too little of." And then she says it's the only thing, is she says what the world needs now is love, sweet love, not just for some, but for everyone. I like those words. Let me just skip from that. How could an ancient letter written by the Apostle Paul to the new Christians in the ancient city of Thessalonica have to do with us? Thessalonica, that's a tongue twister, was a busy seaport well to the north of Greece and a key communication trade center for the region known as Macedonia. The Romans established a naval station there, and the city was located on what was known as the Overland Military Highway. The city was home to two major mystery religions of those days, and both of which were fertility cults that were unacceptable to the Christian way of life. Early Christian missionaries then, notably Paul and a couple of his companions, Silvanus and Timothy, encountered some serious resistance when they went there to found a new church. The meaning and the practice of Christian love toward others required making serious changes in the ways people had previously thought about their relationships. Many things in the Christian message were difficult for the Thessalonians to understand and to accept. In Paul's letter to these early Christians, there are two things that he's saying. First is his thanksgiving for those who were remaining faithful and obedient to the new Christian standards of living, in spite of the harassment they had to put up with from many troublesome troublemakers. Second of all, Paul's second emphasis is his yearning and prayerful desire that these new and harassed followers of Christ would not only continue steadfast in their determination to be faithful, but would abound, and he says, more and more, abound more and more in Christian virtues. Hang on to the words more and more if you hang on to nothing else this morning. Thus setting a powerful positive example to others of what the young church is all about. In particular, in Thessalonians chapter 4, 9 through 12, Paul emphasizes the central importance of Christians loving one's brethren, which in those days meant fellow Christians. In our days, it means both men and women, of course. No matter where they came from, be hospitable toward new people and welcoming. No matter where they came from, and in Thessalonica, major seaport on the Mediterranean, located on a major highway of the Roman Empire, you can imagine that Christians in Thessalonica had great opportunity to extend love and hospitality to other Christians, some of whom came from far away. Before Christianity reached their shores, and their hearts and their minds offering genuine love and hospitality to people very different from themselves was not their natural disposition. Paul here is urging these early Christians to break out of those old ways and to discover new ways to love others around them in an ever-expanding world of experience. More and more, not less and less. Evidence of the Spirit of Christ living among them could be seen in their increasing ability to welcome diverse people into their lives, into their community of faith. The love of Jesus for others was all-inclusive, a radical idea, and in some places it's radical to this day. In the most general of terms for ourselves, we might ask, how is it possible for a person who is already loving to learn to love more and more? I believe that one reason why God gives to each of us the gift of an imagination is so that we can constantly grow constantly improve in the ways we practice Christian virtues and expression, especially love, which the Bible tells us is the most important virtue of all. Remember 1 Corinthians 13, describing some of love's characteristics and many traits, including love being patient and kind, glad for others' successes, humble, pleasant, putting others first, being slow to anger, forgetting past wrongs and forgiving them, disliking and opposing evil, rejoicing in what is good, protective of others from danger, and being hopeful and faithful, and never failing to be in these ways, even to the point of sacrifice, as Jesus so clearly showed us. Wow. Love means being with people, loving and trusting and helping and working and supporting, sharing with others what you have fairly and equitably, praying with and for them, during sharing each other's joys and sadnesses and strengths and weaknesses, faith and doubts, always holding each other's life near and dear and unafraid to be vulnerable for the sake of what love can accomplish. In all of these areas of personal relationships, one can learn to love more and more if one chooses to. Relationships and partnerships and marriages and friendships between neighbors, church members, store clerks, people nearby, nearly anywhere you find them, these relationships prosper when one uses his or her imagination to express Christian love more and more. I know somebody who even writes love letters, love notes to their partner in the dust on their furniture at home.
You have to know someone with dust on their furniture in order to.
Yes, you have to let the dust accumulate. Love never stops moving. Love never stops doing. Love always has new places to go and people to see and hands to hold and words to say and needs to meet, gifts to give, and dreams to dream. It's very visionary. And the use of creative imagination can greatly enhance what we already know about Christian love as we find ways to love others more and more. Learning to love more and more raises challenges for today, both personally and globally. On the personal level, maybe you've heard the story. If I've ever told it to you before, I apologize, but I tell it again anyway. There's about a man who returned to a small island home, and when he got there, he was talking to a group of women who were remembering his mother. She said, "We miss your mother. We'll always remember some things she did the winter before she passed away, when I was one of the people said, when I was very ill and confined to home throughout a blizzard. Your mother came to see me and promised to bring chicken soup. I expected her to return and bring it from her own kitchen, but instead she turned up with brown bags full of groceries, and she made the soup in my kitchen, in my home. And so the smell of cooking soup filled my house. I had both soup and the magic of your mother's company all in one." When we think we have loved enough, there is a good opportunity to let our imagination think of other ways to love more and more. Let our creativity run loose. There are lots of conventional ways of doing things, and then there are better ways of loving, like peeling potatoes and making soup in your neighbor's kitchen. With imagination, to love more and more. Now, Paul made clear the point that the way Christians love has a huge impact as well on the world. Paul was telling early Christians to love one another in the Christian fellowship, which was a large challenge to the people of his day. They weren't used to welcoming into their lives and communities the diverse people they encountered coming and going in their capital city and seaport. Paul emphasized that people from all over the region were your brothers and sisters. But was Paul saying that they only had to be considerate of people who were Christians and forget the rest of the world? Absolutely not. The church in Paul's day was new in the world, and this new community of faith had not been around for very long. Many folks viewed it from the outside just as many view churches from the outside and draw conclusions from the apparent behaviors of its members. Can you imagine attending a church and preaches good news about God's love and then taking a closer look finds everybody in an argument with each other? If Christians fail to set a good example among themselves, the rest of the world is likely to be unimpressed with the message of God's love that the church is bearing. That's why we sing words like, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me." A global concern, but very personal when it begins with you. To be a peacemaker. An important part of Paul's concern when he encouraged new Christians in Thessalonica to build upon the love they already knew and to learn to love more and more was the message they were conveying to the wider world around them. The church, in other words, is called to be a witness and a living demonstration and a living reminder of what the world could be. Fair and equitably sharing of the world's resources, affirmation of every person's life and privilege to be here, and great among other things, and a great many other things that would make our global humanity a great deal more fruitful and peaceful. With creative imagination, love plus imagination, the title of this morning's message, is I believe that the church has a great task set before us to share the gospel in ways that help people of this planet to learn to love more and more. This is a daunting mission, but together with a mighty God, our small but faithful deeds in that direction are worth our every effort. Remember the words? What the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the only thing, not there just too little of. It's not just for some, but for everyone.